talked to a lot of teachers during my CELTA courses and other teacher training courses. And these are the reasons that I came up with. So number one, teachers just say openly that teachers don't have time for teaching writing because writing is kind of a time-consuming thing. The second one was teachers feel writing lessons are boring. And this is what I hear a lot of times from different teachers in different contexts. They just don't even pretend to like it, because they say it's boring. The next one, both teachers and students feel writing is not important. Sometimes it happens, even though nowadays the importance of writing is growing, definitely, in the modern world. And also teachers use writing activities only for reinforcing some target language, right? I mean, in this case, we're talking about written practice, not about writing practice, practicing creating written texts, yeah? And also teachers don't see the difference between writing for literacy, writing for reinforcement, and writing as a skill. And this is the point where the topic of our conference, of our day today, is learning. I mean, learning writing as a skill or using writing for reinforcement of some target language. That's what we need to clearly understand the difference between them. So I'm going to use all these five items to talk in a bit more detail. So teachers don't have time for teaching writing. Yeah, I know we have this problem, and I was thinking about these solutions. First, school syllabus is supposed to include writing lessons, and I think we can admit that quite a lot of schools really don't have writing lessons in their syllabus. Also, for example, every teacher, if they feel the teaching writing is important, they can arrange a full-time writing lesson at least once a month, which is very rare, in fact, very seldom. So I would maybe do it every once in 2 weeks time or something. And also another way is to use flipped classroom. I hope everybody is familiar with this term. When students in class do only the part of work that they cannot do for homework. And that's actually what I'm going to focus today in mainly on that stuff. Teachers feel writing lessons are boring. You know what? During the last couple of years, or maybe even longer, I have been asking students, teaching practice students, TP students, during CELTA, my students in the English classroom, after every writing lesson, ask them, has it been boring for you? And only, statistically, only 2 out of 40 students said that the writing lesson was boring. And I suspect that those two were not very successful. I mean, that's why they said it was boring. But my observation was that they were so engaged, they were so involved that they didn't look bored at all. Also, and the key, how to make writing lesson not so boring, is to make this lesson full of speaking. And you will see what I'm driving at, how we can arrange a lot of speaking even during online writing lesson. Students are expected to talk through everything they're going to write before they start writing. Basically, at the moment when students are starting to write, they are supposed to have said everything, right? They have talked through, they have discussed, they asked questions, they planned, they had some brainstorming. So when they start writing or typing, whatever, their job is only to put it, organize a text as it is, but not to think about the content of what they're going to write. Also, pair work at the pre-writing stage. That's also a great thing. If we're talking about using a lot of speaking in a writing lesson. Pair work at the pre-writing stage increases the amount of speaking, right? When students are choosing the topic, when students are brainstorming. Oh, I see the chat already. When students are brainstorming the ideas for writing, when they're preparing the language to be used, when they're to think about vocabulary, about grammar, about the possible layouts. I mean, the preparation stage is quite long in the writing lesson, right? And then we also Pair work while students are writing. I'm a big fan of using pair work for writing, unless the text that they are creating is too kind of personal, if they're not writing their own story or something. I will talk a bit more in detail a bit later. And also peer editing and feedback, written and oral, on their writing, and publishing and discussing with their pieces of writing. As you can see, all these things, from the second one to the last one, they all involve a lot of speaking. So basically, there are no silent stages here, right? At every stage here, students are talking, 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 and talking, even while they're writing. I mean, one person can type, but two people are talking, three people are talking, three brains or two brains are working at this moment. Pair work online, that's what I said. I promised to have a bit more about it. Today we have, I have quite a few people already been talking about Jamboard, Padlet, using separate Google document for each pair. I'm sure quite a lot of teachers have already done it when you create Google Docs and every pair gets their own link and they are typing their documents online and the teacher can open every document separately and see what students are doing. And it's very important to remember to share properly this document so that anyone with the access can edit this document. That's a kind of a typical mistake that teachers make in this case. Also, there is another technique, one Google document for the entire group, but each pairs has their own expanding box for writing. I will show it to you just in a minute, and you will see the example on the next slide. This is a Jamboard thing. If you have used already Jamboard, you know that there are different pages here, right? I'm showing it now with the cursor, with the arrow. You see, in this case, this is first page out of 8. So group 1 has page number 1, group 2 has page number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So that's why it's much easier for the teacher to monitor their writing, because you just click on different pages and you see what students are typing. But every group is working in their own on their own page. The other option is creating one Google Doc like this with the expanding boxes. And I hear sometimes people say, hey, but they see each other's writing, right? Group 1 is typing in this box, group 2 is typing in this box, group 3 is typing in this box. And they kind of have a chance to cheat, if you want. I don't see any problem with that, to be honest, right? It's also the kind of peer teaching, peer learning from each other. I like using the term spying, you know, like go and spy, see what the other groups do, and you can just compare your typing with that stuff. I've never had a case when students would just copy from each other. No, it works quite well for me. And also Padlet, I already mentioned today. Every student has their own page, or every pair has their own page. These are the examples of IELTS preparation group when they were writing these notorious texts for IELTS. Everybody can create it and they can be edited, they can be discussed and everything. So at least 3 platforms can be used for that. Then the next point is both teachers and students feel writing is not important. Well, I don't think we should talk a lot about it because, you know, number one, writing is critical to become a good reader. And that's what we can tell our students. Writing is an essential job skill, by the way. Nowadays, without it, with all this online communication and everything, I think it's quite difficult to find a good job without the skills of at least business written communication. Writing is the primary basis upon which one's work, learning, intellect can be judged in college, in the workplace, and in the community. I have had some ESP courses for students who are going to study some schools in Canada, where all learning without any exception is happening in writing. So they only write some different projects, and then they submit these projects, they get their feedback and writing. They don't see their teachers. So you see, in this case, that's the only way to assess it when they're learning and their progress. Writing equips us with communication and thinking skills. Of course, if the person can put their thoughts in logical order, it means that they convey their thoughts properly. And writing makes our thinking and learning visible and permanent. I mean, these are kind of the arguments that we can use to talk to students if they think writing is not important. But to be honest, I would say that teachers feel that writing is not important more than students. Students, normally, they don't mind, in the classroom. The teachers use writing activities only to reinforce some target language. What I mean to say that teachers, at least my trainees in CELTE courses and other teacher training courses, they don't see the difference between writing as a skill and writing as I said, writing as the written practice. But writing is not alone. It's not a problem of writing only. For example, reading skills and reading texts, very often they are seen only as the source of target language. Again, the teachers mainly focus on reading texts, only to pick up the language from there, vocabulary or grammar, and to work with it. But the skills themselves, sometimes they're also neglected in this case. Also, reading text is used as a model for writing as well, and not all for developing reading skills as they are. Listening skills and pronunciation work. Very often teachers use listening texts only for pronunciation work and neglect using these texts for developing listening skills themselves. Students just listen and repeat, or listening text is used as a model for a speaking activity. They just listen how some other people do the task. You know what I'm talking about, developing the task-based learning mainly, right? And speaking as a skill and speaking as practice in some target language, control practice, drilling, memorizing dialogues, and so on. You see this confusion between developing skills and using these skills to reinforce language, to provide models, to do some pronunciation work or something like this. These things need to be not separated, but at least the teachers need to be very well aware about this difference, what exactly they are doing at the moment in the classroom. So we can talk about three kinds of writing. Writing for literacy, when students are learning how to write letters, how to put them together. Mainly it is for kids, but when people are learning a language that is completely different in terms of the alphabet, for example, if they are Arabic speakers and they are learning English, writing for literacy is not connected with the age at all. Writing for reinforcement, written practice of target language, as I said, classical things, making sentences, gap fill, writing dialogues, and so on, and writing as a skill, creating a piece of writing. And writing is a skill, it's a very complex skill in general, in fact. So that's why when we're talking about teaching writing and learning writing as a skill, this is the definition: clear, fluent, and effective communication of ideas using visual symbols, not necessarily letters, by the way. If you have seen those ancient inscriptions with the pictures and everything, that's also writing. It's also conveying some ideas, but without letters. And Reims listed the aspects of producing a piece of writing, which includes certainly syntax, grammar. The difference between syntax and grammar, I don't think I should explain, right? Mechanics, like handwriting, spelling, punctuation, and so on. Organization of paragraphs, topic and support, cohesion and coherence. Also word choice and the purpose, the reason of writing, and the audience. You see, each aspect here has its own weight, I would say, in this process of teaching, of creating a piece of writing. And it's just physically impossible to concentrate on all of them in one writing lesson. So that's why we need to be kind of selective. For example, today we're working on some specific vocabulary, or like linkers, you know, that's a classic topic, writing, yeah, or using some idioms, or uh, taking into consideration the audience. For example, as I always like to give this example, if you have bought something broken, something in the shop, like a TV set, and it broke down, you will write two letters. To one of them is to the shop, and one of them is to your granny. And you will write about both of them. About to both of them, you will write about one thing, about the broken TV set, but the letters will be completely different, right? And or for example, the writer's process. That's a huge topic in terms of developing writing skills, like how to get ideas, brainstorming. I'm a big fan of mind mapping, for example, to get ideas for writing, how to get started, how to draft, how to revise, and all these skills involved into creating a piece of writing. So as you can see, it's really, no, it's just impossible to concentrate on all of them, as I said. So, yes, also content, certainly clarity, originality, logic, etc. Also, we need to keep in mind that there are different writings nowadays, especially. There is the writing if the person uses a pen and a paper. In that case, we concentrate quite a lot on mechanics, on handwriting, putting letters together, punctuation, well, capitalization especially, and so on. And if the person is just typing, then there are different skills, like typing skills, the keyboard thing. Spell check helps us with the spelling and even the capitalization. For some languages, it is really vital. Yeah, so I hope we understand that we need to keep it in mind. And I have a strong feeling that the importance of handwriting is kind of going down in modern world, because everybody is typing now, right? What is important for writing? That was the question that I asked my students once. And I said, what is important for you when you want to write something? And the answer was so different. Some of them were really unexpected. For example, yes, of course, they say you need to write, you need to have the ideas of what to write about. Okay, that's clear. You need to have clear aim, like outcome, what exactly you're writing, what kind of text you're writing. That's very important. For this reason, like I really like the tasks in some course books, like write about your holiday. Lovely. What kind of text should I write? Who is going to read it? How big is the text that you want me to create? And there are many aspects, remembering and Raim's chart and Raim's list of factors. Those factors must be made clear for students what kind of text they're going to write. Then knowledge about the reader, as I said, yeah, who's going to read it. Knowledge about the genre, like what kind of language they're going to use. What is the layout of this text that they're going to create. So as I said, the task write about is not enough. Then students also said, I need to have relevant language proficiency, like they need to know enough vocabulary, enough grammar, enough maybe stylistic things to use in the text, enough discourse features like discourse markers, linkers, reference things inside the text, and so on. Then they say, hey, I need a tool for writing, a pen or a computer. It's just obvious, but it was just funny answer, but that's true. And also somebody said, I need inspiration. And that's great. And I was thinking like, yeah, probably we need to create, to work on that in the classroom. students, when they tell them, hey, just write something, why should they write it? They need to feel something, right? That they need to feel the urge to write, if you want, yeah? And they also need to understand the routine for writing process. Like, what do we start with, right? Getting ideas, brainstorming, thinking about the language, thinking about the layout, then the first draft, then peer editing, then the second draft, publishing, all these things. If they're familiar with that, they have already very clear expectations. And this is what makes the lesson even less boring, as we're saying, right? As somebody's saying. Certainly they need time for writing, and this is an important aspect. But by the way, in the writing lesson, if we have a lesson for like 1 hour lesson, the writing itself, it takes maximum like 7-10 minutes, right? All the other time is either preparation for writing or editing, peer editing, giving feedback, discussing, publishing, all this stuff. The writing itself is not so long. And yeah, for inspiration, sorry, again, I was thinking just, where's the word music? I remember I wrote it here. It's here. There was a suggestion to one of the ways for the inspiration for writing, finding some good music. And yeah, sometimes people feel it's enough and it's useful for them. And certainly they need the room for working and the room for ideas, a source for ideas. There is one more thing, graphophobia. I found this term in psychology sources in psychology. Graphophobia, some people really, they're desperately afraid of writing as it is, right? And I found one of the ways to deal with it. There is an activity called free writing or river writing, as Mary Scholl called it. River writing, and the rules are like this. You just choose a trigger, which is a starting phrase, and just write. Keep your hand moving and writing. Repeat words or ideas if you feel stuck, but keep your hand moving. And don't worry about spelling, about grammar. Don't erase or cross out anything. Anything in English is okay. Nobody's talking about accuracy here. If you don't know what to write, write the trigger word over and over again until more English flows out to you. If you want to change topic or triggers, just do it. Write like water flowing in a river. It's kind of a psychological trainings exercise, but I tried it several times. At first, students are kind of puzzled, but then they like it, and they see that at least they can create at least some piece of writing, which doesn't look perfect at all, but at least it is in English, and there are some scattered thoughts in this text, but still it's a piece of writing in English, and it really helps to deal with graphophobia. And these are the examples of triggers, like, hey, yesterday I always wanted, I will never, I love, I don't really like it, when, flowers, food, vacation, the most important, the biggest surprise, this town, whatever, you just, the first phrase they can start with. And feedback on their writing is certainly peer editing and feedback, and that's an amazing tool for developing their skills when they're giving feedback to each other, when they are discussing again, they are talking. When you publish their writing on the walls, internet facilities, texting, etc., that's the final draft, of course, when they're ready to publish their writing. I don't think it's the good idea to publish their first draft until they are happy with this draft. Of voting for the second best one. You said put the word second best because I always tell my students that I know that your writing is the best, of course, I know. So that's why you don't need to vote for yours. You need to vote for the second best one, okay? And then they choose the best text writing. And reading out to share with the group. I have seen quite a lot of stuff like this in the classroom. And by the way, I saw that Christopher is going to talk about reading out today. I have questions about using reading out for feedback on writing, because normally we don't write for reading out. Yeah, we write for somebody to read it by themselves. So I put 3 question marks here. I just want us to keep thinking about this technique, how acceptable it is for the feedback on writing. And thank you. Thank you. That's it from me. If you want to get in touch with me, it is Andriy Ruzhynskiy. It's very easy to remember my Gmail address. And I think I have at least 1 or 2 minutes for the questions, if you have any. Yeah, Chris, thank you. Any questions, people?
Yeah, definitely. No? You can use the chat or you can just raise hand.
Yeah, Chris, I'm really eager to hear what you're going to talk about reading out loud, right? And look, again, we're in a row with you.